Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, July the 19th. And wow, thinking back over this week, what a crazy, crazy week. We have seen so many things happen this week. We've saw Trump almost get assassinated on the weekend and stand up, defiant, pumping his fist in the air and generating a tremendous amount of additional support. Coming out of that, we've heard from Trump and his newly elected vice president and many others in the Republican Party speaking at the Republican National Convention this week and trying to reunite the Republicans, which seems to be working in that sense. We've seen a ton of shift then in market money and movement around this idea of a new Trump 2.0 administration and looking at moving into stocks that may benefit in the event that the Republicans take the House and the Senate, as well as the office of the president. We're seeing some huge activity in the cybersecurity space today with attacks, alleged attacks, taking down numerous websites and cloud services, primarily through, by the looks of it, the Microsoft platform, and as well Crowdstrike, which is a cybersecurity company that appears to be involved in some of these outages or the cause of some of these outages. We've had earnings releases come in from a number of different companies at this point in a variety of different sectors, most of them positive, but some very, very weak, such as J.B. Hunt in transport. And we're seeing a slowdown in retail spending. We still have these talks going on about inflation coming down, but not down enough to actually start moving Fed interest rates down, which now are considered to be something that will happen in September with the first rate cut. But the first rate cut is going to be almost insignificant in terms of helping. If you know anything about the Fed, historically, the Fed is always late to the game. They're rarely, if ever, proactive. They're always a reactive engine. So the events that cause them to make a move are already then really set to move forward and occur in the next 3 to 6 months following their move. So it's a lagging kind of effect, and so it will have very little benefit immediately. It'll have a trickle effect, if anything. So we're seeing a ton of different things. We're seeing with Trump new potential sanctions on the semiconductor industry, which took a big hit on the NASDAQ, which caused a big hit on the NASDAQ this week, in particular the semiconductor sector. So today, as we move into the market, we do have some oil news and earnings this morning. It's a mixed bag of earnings from SLB and Halliburton. Halliburton kind of remaining flat and now down pre-market, whereas SLB was a little more positive and had a better earnings report forecast and is up pre-market. So it's a mixed bag there. But if we look at the futures going into today, the Dow is down. This could mean that some of our financial sector stocks are probably going to start in the red, if not continue in the red throughout the day today. Whereas we may see a bit of a recovery in some tech stocks, but there's going to be a few that are taking big hits this morning as we look at the Yahoo Finance app. So as we see from the events calendar, Halliburton and SLB reported today before market. And as I said a minute ago, SLB came out with positive earnings. It's up almost $1. Halliburton down almost $1. Not as good earnings. I mean, they weren't bad earnings. They just didn't have any growth to them. So they were pretty much stagnant from what we saw last year. We've got Zion's Bank on Monday, and then next week we're going to have the start of some big ones. Tech Week comes a week, 2 weeks out. So next week we're going to get the beginning of some tech like Tesla. We've got Google, and then Canadian National Railroad. So looking at these, Tesla's had a huge run into earnings. That is a very risky one in my opinion. They're pegging a lot of this recent movement on this robo-taxi announcement, which was, I think, to come out in August and now has been pushed to October. So famous Elon here in messaging something, creating some buzz, but then deferring it a little bit. Look at the Cybertruck, 5-year delay. We've got Google. If there's any stock I would jump on at the 170s right now, it's Google. It's had an off week with tech this week. I'd watch to see what it does, both today and Monday. And if it takes a dip, I would definitely look at buying into Google. I'd stay away from CNR because we saw what happened with JB Hunt. I think CNR is in the transport sector as well, and I think that it's going to probably have suffered a little bit in terms of rail shipments. We're not seeing a lot of grain transport at this time of year because it hasn't been harvested yet. So I think there's going to be less utilization and less revenue on a car-by-car basis in the railroad. Visa, I expect, will do well. It's kind of at levels that it was at right around its last earnings. So I think it has the ability to move. A lot of people are using credit to help them with the fact that their disposable income is no longer and they want to continue to purchase goods, specifically goods that they need just to live, food and other things. And so Visa should do well. HCA has gone crazy this morning. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's up 25% this morning in the pre-market. That's a huge spike, and I haven't found any news related to that. But it could be on the whole Trump messaging, and it could be in that Trump bucket. And then we get into IBM and Helmerich and Payne, another oil company, and then Valero next week. So we've got more oil on the works next week towards beginning, middle, and end of the week. So I'll be keeping my eye on that. But if we go back and take a look at the individual stocks, let's start at the top and see what's going on here. So if we scroll over and for the most part take a look at where we are with NASDAQ futures, we're still up. We were up higher earlier, then down significantly, and then back up. The VIX, this is an interesting move. So the VIX, the volatility index 30 days out, is now almost at 16.5. If we look back even a week, this was under 13. So this has made some pretty significant moves in the course of, call it 5 to 10 trading days. And then if we look at where we are with crude is in the mid 82s. It has come up as close as 84 and down into the low 80s. So it's definitely trading in the higher part of its trading envelope over the last couple of weeks. I do believe, again, if we're talking about a Trump trade, he's talking about in his speech last night, drill, drill, drill. So I do anticipate we could see a lift if Republican numbers leaning towards a Trump win get stronger. I do believe crude will continue to increase. Going down to retail and health. So retail, again, kind of staying away from retail at this point. It's a bit risky in my opinion and not a lot of opportunity for significant growth at this time with consumer discretionary spending where it is. And that's all shifted now, what I said a minute ago. So HCA was up $24 pre-market just moments ago. You can see the shift here from the low 320s up into the 400s. And now it looks like, although the chart hasn't readjusted, it has come back down and it is now down $11. So not sure what was going on there. That was a huge spike earlier. Humana off a few dollars. I think we're going to start to see results in the next 2 weeks out of these companies. I think we're going to see positive results. I think they'll continue to go up, but they've really been hit hard this year. So this is just more of a recovery. JB Hunt hitting another low yesterday, not low for the year, the month, or really even probably the week. Maybe the week, but not the last month. But it is starting to drop. I do expect this is going to get down. I mean, it was at 175 pre-earnings. It's come down to 160. I think it's going to come back down into the 155, 154 range. So I'm staying away from this until it hits that bottom, whatever that new bottom is. I do anticipate that CNR will be in the 150s by next week after earnings. And then we get into oil, and it's a mixed bag here in oil. A lot of green on the screen, so we do have some green, but it's been very volatile. That's a good thing because we can make money in a volatile market. SLB coming out with we'll call it better than expected earnings, up almost 80 cents pre-market. Halliburton down 80 cents pre-market with not as strong results today. Crude off 20 cents but climbing. I think we'll see crude get to 83 today, potentially. And if we do see crude climb to 83, recover to even, and then continue the climb to 83 or a little above 83, I think we should see a lift overall in most of our oil stocks. So I'll be looking for Valero to get up to, say, 151 at some point today. I think that's a fair run for that. It could go to 153. It's done that earlier this week. If we look at the weekly on Valero, it really had a weird day on Wednesday. It opened okay. I'm not sure if it was lower or higher, but then it really spiked here. Going up, I think, $4 or so. It hovered around that range and then it dropped back off. So not sure what was driving that movement, but then we had the same thing yesterday where it opened strong, it popped a little and then dove and then popped again and then drove and continued to dive throughout the remainder of the day. So it's just been a very volatile stock, but if we look at the 1 month, it is trading not at lows, but on the lower side, certainly, of where it has been. If we take a look at the 160s here, as we are going into the earnings season, we are, from last peak back in April, we are definitely a lot lower than the last peak. So there is, with some positive news next week on Thursday coming out with earnings, there's definitely a chance that this could pop back up and get back into the mid 160s. If we scroll down into tech, so Crowdstrike is just getting hammered. You can see it's down almost $45 pre-market. So this could get back into the $200 range. I would not buy this today on the initial open. I would wait to see how this whole tech ordeal online plays out and how affected Crowdstrike is by it. But typically, a one-day movement and a breach like that will not cause a significant loss of customers that will affect the business immediately because they'll be very involved in remediating it. And if they do a good job with the remediation, it often builds greater long-term trust. So this could actually help CrowdStrike. I think with CrowdStrike, you will see an opportunity to get in at a heavy discount, and this stock could recover back up to the 380s by, I'm going to say, the end of October. It's not going to be immediate by any means, but if they come out with great earnings this quarter, you could be buying it at a deep discount. But it is a risky move, although I think most of the risk has been taken out when it's off $45 today. On the flip side to that, one of its competitors, Palo Alto, seems to be popping this morning on the news of CrowdStrike. So you've got CrowdStrike taking a dive, but maybe this is an opportunity seen by the market for one of its competitors, Palo Alto, to step in and take up some market share. So it's up $10 pre-market. And then you've got Cloudflare, which is up a little bit, but certainly nowhere near how much it was down yesterday with the greater NASDAQ. And then as we scroll down and we see Microsoft, it's only off $6, even though it's been linked to this larger outage amongst airlines and financial services and a number of other industries and sectors. So I would expect that this will fall a little bit more. ARM has started to recover, so that's one of our semis. ON is up, that's another semi. AMD is off, but only slightly. And then as we get down to Qualcomm, it's up, another semi. Workday is off, not sure why, but $9. That could be an interesting buying opportunity for a very strong company. Broadcom is up today, another semi. So for the most part, semis appear to be more up than down. And then we get into Tesla, which has had an incredible run over the last month. It is up, but only slightly. Meta had a good recovery, only about maybe half of what it lost the day before, but it was a strong recovery. The nice thing about Meta here today is I think we're set for a better recovery today as we move forward with Meta, but it's not involved in this massive outage. So although Meta does go down from time to time and have its issues, it doesn't appear to be linked to the outage that's being talked about in the broader market today, which is a positive for that. And they're coming into earnings season in a couple of weeks, and I think the earnings are going to be very positive. Zuckerberg did his best to get some media attention yesterday in an interview and called Trump a badass, said he wasn't necessarily aligned with Republicans or Democrats, wasn't going to get involved. Facebook is going to try to get less involved from a political messaging standpoint. We'll see all about that. We'll see what the actions are as opposed to the words, but he took an opportunity to certainly get some time in front of media, which is always a good thing to do to get your company some free media airtime. ACAM, another technology cybersecurity stock, it is off a little bit. NVIDIA was up, it's pulled back a little. And then Google looks like it's going to mount a bit of a recovery today and get back into the 180s. I think in the 170s, Google is definitely a strong buy ahead of earnings next Tuesday. Adobe had a bit of a setback yesterday, not huge, a little bit, starting to recover today. I think going into earnings, Adobe is going to be a very strong company. And then the other one that really surprised me yesterday was TSM. So TSM came out with fabulous results, but then it just got pulled down with the greater news around the potential Trump tariffs in the event of a Trump win, and a lot of other news that was going around in the market about semis being overpriced. But they had a great forecast. They had great results for the quarter, and they ended up going down. So this was a company that was in the 185s earlier this week. I mean, if we look at the 5-day on this, it was 185 on Monday, Tuesday through until the open on Wednesday, and it announced pre-market, and it just dove $15 or so that morning and continued to go down. It was as low as the mid 160s at one point yesterday, and has now recovered up to the 170s. So I think this is a stock that will definitely recover as we start to see more semis report. Because of the strong earnings, I think it will lift this one up, and it should be back in the 180s, maybe 185 within the next 60 days. I don't think it'll happen necessarily faster than that. It could, depending on what the NASDAQ does. I mean, the NASDAQ has an extremely strong day. I think it could lift it right back up, but I think it's super attractive right now. Certainly if it drops down to 170 or into the 160s, I would load up on TSM because that's a stock that is going to do very well going forward. And then we have the banks. So SoFi had an amazing run. I hope you participated in that. We were advocating that for a while on this channel. You would have had 16% returns depending on if you'd bought in close to the bottom when we recommended in the 620s, and then sold when it got up into the it got as high as 680 the other day. It dropped down yesterday. I'm still waiting to see what happens on this one. We do see earnings coming up in 10 days on this, but I do think it will pull back a little before then. I think you might get it down to $7 potentially before earnings, but we'll have to kind of wait and see that. We are seeing some pullback in the bigger names. So, we see JP Morgan had an off day yesterday. It's down a little at the open. M&T had great results. It was up significantly, like $6 or $7. Now it only closed up $3. Morgan Stanley down yesterday, but off of highs. The same with Goldman. So Goldman was, I think, a 510, 512 stock earlier this week. If we look at the 5-day, you can see, 509, 510 up in here. And now it's down into the 480s. I'm going to wait for Goldman to pull back a little. I do expect that some of these names that really climbed up pre-earnings and then bounced even further, I think will come back. Schwab, on the other hand, took a huge hit. I think it's really hit a bottom at this point, and I think it will come back up into the 165, 167s over the course of the next 30 days. We have Zion Bank announcing on Monday. The regionals, M&T, did very well. Zion, depending on where it's sitting with commercial real estate and potential risk there, could also do very well come Monday. This is one that if we look at the 1 month, it has climbed a fair bit. So it did that like some of the other financials. I'm staying away from it because of that climb. If it had have been kind of hovering or declining going into earnings, I'd be looking at picking up some of it today. So unless it drops down into the 147, 146 range today, which I don't expect it to do, I am going to stay away from Zion as a regional bank opportunity. that is where we are today with the markets. I hope you have good luck in your trades today. If you're liking these videos, please